This week, we're going to talk about the 19th of Kislev. So before we even start talking about 19th of Kislev, 19th of Kislev is going to be this Saturday. Some of you are probably looking at me, what's 19th of Kislev? But we're going to explain soon. So let's go back to 1700s. And I'll describe how Judaism existed in the 1700s. In the 1700s, pretty much, many people don't realize it, but Judaism was divided into two nations. There wasn't one nation. There were two nations. To the extent, when I said there were two nations, talking about Europe, I'm not talking about the Sephardi communities. In Europe, there were two nations of Jews. What do I mean? There were the learned people, and then there was the simple guys, farmers, those who didn't know how to read and write. And these two communities did not interact with each other. To such an extent, you would not get a marriage between the two communities. They were completely divided. That's how it was in the 1700s. The learned people remained with the learned people, the farmers remained with the farmers didn't get educated, and the learned people kept to themselves. This is pretty much how Judaism lived for hundreds of years until the 1700s in Europe. That's the way it was. Late 1700s came the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov started Hasidut. He brought down into Hasidut into this world. We're not going to go, we don't have the time to go through the whole thing. After the Baal Shem Tov, and Hasidut, we're going to see what it emphasized today, so I'm not going to describe it now. And then after the Baal Shem Tov was Hamagid Mimezvich, and after the Magid Mimezvich, there was the Alter Rebbe. Now, the Magid Mimezvich passed away on 19th of Kislev. But before he passed away, he went to the Alter Rebbe and he told him, you and me share a Yom Hilula, a special day. Me and you share. Now, Alter Rebbe didn't know what he was talking about because he didn't pass away yet. Yeah? We share a special day. Later, years later, the Alter Rebbe, he became the leader of the Chabad movement. And as we're going to see, the learned people who were in the time didn't like it. We're going to understand why they didn't like it. They didn't like it to such an extent that they pretty much told the Tsar to get rid of him. Yeah? Get rid of this guy. We don't need him over here. He's just a troublemaker. He's making another cult or whatever. We're going to see what he's making. And pretty much get rid of him. And he was sentenced to death, pretty much. That was supposed to be with him. He was in jail for 53 days. And after 53 days, he was taken out of jail. That is the 19th of Kislev that we're going to talk today. Okay? So, again, I didn't describe what Hasidus is all about because this is what we're going to be learning today. So, as we're learning it, we're going to describe it. So, let's start inside. Source number 1. Michtav Rabbeinu Hazaken. This is a letter from the Alter Rebbe. Bera kegon da tzarich leodia. We must inform the people. Ki yom asher asa Hashem lanu yom yutet bekislev. That the day that God did for us, the 19th of Kislev, like I said, it's going to be this Saturday coming up. Yom Gimel. So it says, at that year, it happened to be on a Tuesday. And what's so special about Tuesday? Shuchbal bo ki tov. It's the only day of the week when God created the world that it says it was good twice. Yeah? On the Sunday it says it was good once, and only say it was good twice is when on Tuesday it says it was good twice. Yom Hilula Rabba. This is the Yortzeit of our holy teacher. Shel Rabbeinu HaKadosh Nishmato Eden. It was on the same day he was let out of jail. And when did it happen? It says, when did I get the information that I'm not going to get a death penalty, they're going to let me go? כשקריתי בספר תהילים, it says, I read in the book of Tehillim, בפסוק, a verse in the Tehillim that says, Pada beshalom nafshi. He redeemed my soul in peace. And this is the thing we're going to concentrate on, these three words. He redeemed, Pada beshalom nafshi. He redeemed my soul in peace. קודם שהתחלתי פסוק של אחריו, it was even before I read the next verse, יצאתי בשלום מהשם שלום. I went out of jail, everything was peace. Okay. The Rebbe says, רבנו הזקן, שבוודאי ידע מדוע שבוי במאסר, it says, the Alter Rebbe knew why he was sitting in jail. וכיצד לאחרי זה הוא שוחרר ויצא לחירות. And how he was freed, he went to freedom. אמר ששחרורו קשור עם הפסוק פדה בשלום. He says that the reason why he went out of jail was because of this verse. He redeemed my soul in peace. שזהו פסוק בתנ"ך, בתהילים. It's a verse in the Psalms. וכדי לדעת הפירוש של הפסוק הזה, so let's try to understand what is the explanation of this verse. צריך להסתכל בתורה שבעל פה. If you want the explanation, the deep explanation, one needs to go into the Gemara. And the Gemara is going to give us a deep explanation of this verse. So where is it? In Gemara in Masechet Brachot. Gemara, in the tractate of Brachot, it discusses this verse. And it says, this is the source from Talmud, Brachot 8a, source number 2. It says, Pada beshalom nafshi. He redeemed my soul in peace. מקרב לי וגומר, אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא said God. It says, what does it mean? So מסכת ברכות says, כל העוסק בתורה, anybody who busies himself with learning Torah, ובגמילות חסדים, he busies himself with doing kindness, ומתפלל עם הציבור, and he davens, he prays with the congregation, מעלה אני עליו, God says, I have considered it as if, כאילו, as if, פדעני לי ולבני מבין אומות העולם. He took me and the Jewish people out of exile. So if you do all these three, is just like I went out of jail, I was redeemed from jail. If you do these three things, what happens? You get we, as a Jewish nation, get redeemed from exile. These three things causes a redemption from exile. This is what Masechet Brachot says. This is what Tractate Brachot says. Let's continue. The Rebbe continues, ומזה מובן, from here we understand, שהפדיעה והגאולה של רבנו הזקן, that the redemption of the Alter Rebbe, קשורה עם שלושת העניינים, has to do with these three things. What the three things? העוסק בתורה, first of all, learning Torah. Second of all, גמילות חסדים, acts of kindness. And third of all, מתפלל עם הציבור, davens with the congregation. So let's see. And what are these three things? והם שלושת העמודים שעליהם העולם עומד. And we can see, we all learned in פרקי אבות this summer, that the world stands on three pillars. What are the three pillars that the world stands on? They're Torah, learning Torah, avoda, prayer, וגמילות חסדים, and kindness. כפירוש מרשה, או שלושת העניינים, or you want to learn it in another manner, in a Kabbalistic manner, all these things are the three garments that we are talking about in Kabbalah. Machshava, dibur, and maaseh. Thought, speech, and action. So let's see how they are. העוסק בצורה, somebody who learns Torah, צריך להיות באופן של מוציאם בפה. עניין הדיבור. He needs to say Torah with words. Just learning Torah, you need to be pronouncing the words. This is speech. גמילית חסדים, kindness, charitable acts. עניין המעשה, this is action. Yeah? This is action. ומתפלל עם הציבור, and one davens with the congregation. What's got to do with it? עבודה שבלב זו תפילה. This is service of the heart. This is called davening. שזהו עניין המחשבה. And this is the faculty of thought. This is the thought part. So we have thought, speech, and action. So let's now go and understand how did the Alter Rebbe go to jail and why did he go to jail? So let's try to understand what was going on over here. Uvechen, and this is what happened. Hamalshinut sheba eshimu et Rabbeinu Azaken. If you look, actually the documents are still there. You can check on the documents of why the Alter Rebbe was put into prison. It's written, it's in Hebrew, so it's Ktava Ashama. I don't know how to say it in English. It's the document where they say what he did wrong. Yeah, whatever it is. Kfi sheturgema al yedei goyim, and this was, by the way, the court that they judged him, they were smart. The court weren't non-Jews. The court was Jews. They were all Jews who knew exactly what's going on, and they were the court. I mean, they weren't the court itself, but they were the advisors of the court. Let's call it this way. Yeah? Some of them were also on the court. Yeah, but that was the idea. They knew what's going on. You couldn't pull the wool over their eyes, these guys. But it was translated to Russian, and we're going to see they accused him on 3 things. 3 things they accused him of. In other words, Ktav Hashama, what you're guilty for, were 3 main things he was found, he was arrested for. What were the 3 things? Number 1, Osek Betorah. Number 1, because he learned Torah. And now you would think, the Zal cares about him learning in Torah? Why does he care so much? This is not a communist. We're talking about the Tsar over here. What does the Tsar care about a Jew learning Torah? We're going to see soon. בנוגע לגמילות חסדים וצדקה, he was also accused of doing charity. You're going to die, they're going to tell you, you're going to die because you did charity, as we're going to see soon. Doesn't make sense, but it's going to make sense soon. ובנוגע לעניין מתפלל לציבור, and also he's going to, why? Because he davens with the congregation. On these 3 things, the Russian government says he deserved what? He deserved death penalty. Now you would think, these 3 things, the Russian government, what do they care? So let's see. טענה אחת הייתה בנוגע להשפעה על לימוד התורה. So the first thing was about learning Torah. So let's go back to the times that we discussed. Remember, the Jewish people were divided into 2 groups. There was the groups of the learned people, and there was the groups of the regular farmers. What did the Baal Shem Tov do? The Baal Shem Tov, who was the first Chassid, he came around and he talked about the value of the regular person, of the regular farmer, of the uneducated Jew. He started explaining the great value of that Jew, how dear he is in the eyes of God, and so on and so forth. That's what he started explaining. Yeah? Until that time, the regular farmer thought, those are the special Jews, and I'm the lowly farmer. He started to explain to them, you're a Jew, you're dear to God, maybe even more than whom? Than the learned guy. Yeah? The fact that you didn't learn Torah doesn't mean you're not dear to God as much as the other guy. And that, the other group who were in power at the time didn't like. See, they had monopoly over the religion, the other group. They decided what religion is. They decided what shul is, what prayer is, what learning is, what being close to God is. They had a great monopoly on all of Judaism. And here comes the Baal Shem Tov, and he tells you, hey guys, you don't have the monopoly over the connection to God. Every Jew has a connection to God. You don't hold the monopoly. And they didn't like it. So they ran to the Tsar, and we're talking about now, it's 2 generations later. This is the Alter Rebbe. By the time that the Alter Rebbe comes, and he's taking hundreds and thousands of people over, not only regular farmer he was taking over, they didn't care when the Baal Shem Tov was talking to the farmer, and when the Magid Mizrich was talking to the farmer. This group didn't care. The problem is that the learned people started going and get attracted to the Alter Rebbe. That was the problem. So they ran over to the Tsar and they said, Tsar, there's going to be a revolution over here. Judaism has lived as us for the last 2,000 years. all of a sudden there's going to be a cult over here. A new movement, a revolution in Judaism. You don't need this cult of people, a revolution running around. You know, revolutions are bad. They explained to the Tsar. You don't need it. So they went to the Tsar to say, we control the shuls, we control the religion. And when there's a new guy says that he's also Jewish, that there's another type of Judaism, so-called another type of Judaism, he says, that's a cult. That's not part of us. They try and take over. So they ran to the Tsar to tell him, hey, this is a problem. There's going to be a revolution here. And what's the great revolution? It says, how did they start? He's teaching people, that's what they complained. If every Jew is special, you know what's going to happen? The farmer is not going to need us. He's not going to need the learned people. They're not going to respect the hierarchy in Judaism. And you know what's going to happen because of that? Yavou lezalzel belimud Torah. It says people are going to not give us the respect that we deserve. Throughout the years, we had some respect, we earned this respect, and this is exactly the words that was written, right? So you see, the first one. Another thing, so this is learning Torah. That's what it says. The Alter Rebbe they accuse the Alter Rebbe against learning Torah. It says, because of you, people are not going to learn Torah, because you told them they're special even without it. That's what they say. So they're going to stop Torah learners. That's the first thing they accused him of. The second thing they accused him of, טענה נוספת היה בנוגע לגמילות חסדים. A second reason was, we comes for charitable acts. Let's take a little bit of history. After the Magid Mizvich passed away, the leader didn't become the Alter Rebbe immediately. The leader became Menachem Mendel Mehorodok. The reason why you don't know about Menachem Mendel Mehorodok, because Menachem Mendel Mehorodok wasn't the leader for a long time, and as soon as he became leader, he told the people in Russia, I am leaving, I'm going to Israel. I'm going to immigrate to Israel. And he went to Israel, I think he lived in Tveria. He went not only by himself, with many big Kabbalists. The Alter Rebbe, who was his chassid, wanted to go with him. But he said to the Alter Rebbe, you can't go with me because Russia needs you. You have to stay behind. So that's why Russia. So Menachem Mendel Mehorodok was living in Tveria. Now you have to remember at that time, Israel was under the Ottoman Empire, Turkey. And at that time, Turkey and Russia were at war. They were at war for hundreds of years. There was a war between Turkey and Russia. And what did the Alter Rebbe do? The Alter Rebbe used to send money, charity, for the people, for the Jews who lived this is already close to the 1800s, late 1700s. He used to send money for the Jews that lived in Tveria, in Eretz Israel, in Yerushalayim, in Tzemach Tzedek over there. He used to send money, charitable acts. Now, so what did the elite group told to the Tsar? The elite group went and told to the Tsar, he's supporting your enemies. He's sending money to the Turks. And the Turks were against whom? Were against Russia. So that was the second accusation against the Alter Rebbe. He wasn't sending money to the Turks, he was sending money to the Jews. But doesn't matter. Since they can accuse him, they're going to accuse him. כשהכסף ששלח רבנו הזקן לכל ישיבת ישראל, they said that the money that Alter Rebbe sends to the Kollel in the land of Israel, עבור החזקת תלמידי חכמים, it was for ישיבות, אלמנות ויתומים, it was for orphans, for widows, נתפרש על ידם ששולחים זאת כדי ללחם נגד הזר. It says he's sending it for your enemies to fight against you, Tsar. That was the second accusation. וכן טענו בנוגע לאריכות בתפילה. And they also had another thing against him that he told the Tsar. He's making a cult. And how do you know he's making a cult? How do we know he's making a cult? Because up to now, the entire European Jewry used to daven one way. It's called Nosach Ashkenaz. If you open the Siddur is going to say Nosach Ashkenaz. There was no one who davened Nosach Sfarad, the Sfaradic way. So the entire Judaism, all of Europe, no, there were no Sfaradim in Europe. Yeah, but the entire Europe, daven Nosach Ashkenaz. All of a sudden, this guy comes and he davens according to the Arizal. The Arizal is very much similar to Sfarad. It's not exactly Sfarad, but it's a lot similar to Sfarad. So they tell the Tsar he's starting a new religion. Why is he starting a new religion? He's starting a new religion. We had a religion for thousands of years over here, and this guy is coming around with a new davening. And so you say, why would the Tsar care? Because they're telling him, it's a religion. You don't have that religion. The religion is Judaism. This guy comes and trying to introduce a new religion. It's a cult. That's what they accused him of. You don't want a cult. A cult is dangerous, they told the Tsar. Cults are dangerous. Once you start a cult, you know what's going to happen. You get Christianity in the end. And all of a sudden, the Hasidim of the Alter Rebbe wanted their own Chazan, that the Chazan should daven the Arizal, so they wanted to separate, and they wanted a different shul. So look what they're doing. They're separating. They're doing this. שנעשת כת חדשה. There's a new cult over here. כמבואר ברוחה בכתב הלשנה. Like you can see it in the allegations against the Alter Rebbe, if you read it. Okay. So, this is the three things that they attack the Alter Rebbe. ידוע מה שכתוב בספרים, it is known what it is written in the books, בנוגע לעניין, when it comes to the עניין, victory is won through many advisors. The תשועה ברוב יועץ. What does it mean, תשועה ברוב יועץ? Victory will come with many advisors. If you want a victory, you need to have good advisors. Yeah? There's no other ways. Victory, if you have a good war, you need good advisors. If you don't get good advisors, you don't have victory. מובן שבפשטות מובן ששצריך מאהב. So, but who are you going to get to advise you? So you go to your father, you go to your uncle, you go to a good friend. You need to go to someone who loves you when you want victory. שכאשר אדם נמצא במעמד ומצב שסברובים, so but the question is, what do you do when you're around a situation and no one loves you? You can't find. People are far away. Your father is far away. Your uncle is far away. Your friends are far away. And you need victory. How would you know what the right thing to do is? Who's going to advise you then? So the Torah says you can still get advisors. Who are the advisors? It says your enemies. It says get advice from your enemies. What does it mean? עצה נוספת. So we are on page 5. There's another עצה, another advice. לשמוע חוות דעת של השונא. It says, listen to what your enemy says and do exactly the opposite. It says, listen to your enemy. It says, ask your enemy, what should I do? He's going to tell you what to do and he hates you. So you know what I should do? Exactly the opposite. Yeah? ולעשות ההפך. גם כאן, so he says also over here by us, הטענות שהשונא הגוי השמיע בפני המקטרג, שהקטגוריה השמיע בפני בית המשפט, היה עניין שהוא הפך האמת. Everything that they said that the Alter Rebbe did against the Tsar was a lie, and as we're going to see soon, was exactly the opposite. Wasn't just a lie. All the accusation that they accused the Alter Rebbe, it was actually positive things that he did for the Tsar, not negative things he did against the Tsar. And now you're going to ask, why? How is it possible? So let's see. The Rebbe says, ובפרטיות יותר, to understand this even deeper. Page 6. בנוגע ללימוד התורה, when it comes to learning Torah, תורת החסידות בכלל, when it talks about Hasidus, ועל אחת כמה וכמה חסידוס חב"ד, and how much more so when it comes to Chabad Hasidus, מסבירה את יוקר התורה שלא בערך לגבי אופן ההסתכלות על התורה שהייתה עד אז. In other words, if you're going to ask, who sees the beauty of Torah more? Somebody who learns Hasidus? I'm talking about who sees the beauty of the Mishnah, the beauty of Gemara, the beauty of Rashi. Who sees it more? Somebody that doesn't learn Hasidus or somebody that does learn Hasidus? Obviously, somebody that learns Hasidus appreciates the Torah more than somebody who doesn't learn Hasidus. And why? Because he sees godliness in it. And he sees godliness in it. He sees God in it. The other one is just plain halacha. It's just plain commandments. It's just, this guy owes that guy $5. What's this guy? What's that guy? There's no deep explanation of it. You know? The deep explanation comes specifically to appreciate the Torah, comes specifically. And הדבר מתבטא בשני קווים. And we can see it in two ways. Number one, so first of all, let's look at the way they were, the congregation was before the Alter Rebbe, and how the Alter Rebbe changed. ככל שתגדל מעלתו של הלמדן. So he says, see, the people before the Alter Rebbe came around, they thought that they are the top of the food chain. He says, why did they think they're the top of the food chain? Because if you needed something, you needed to know something, you had to go to them. They held Judaism. It was, you needed to a wedding, you need to go to them. You need something to do, you need to go to them. There was a fight between neighbors, you needed to go to them. They held everything. Everything was in their power. And they thought that, well, you know who we are? We are God-like. Yeah? If you want to know what God wants, who do you go to? You come to us. Because we know what God wants. That was the attitude. And that was what it was. That's right. That's right. We are God-like. And then there's the regular people that when they need God, they have to come to us. Yeah? That was the mentality. But the Alter Rebbe introduced something else. The Alter Rebbe introduced, and this is why many of the learned people started coming in their thousands and tens of thousands over to the Alter Rebbe. And that's what they were afraid of, that the Alter Rebbe is making a revolution. He was taking the best of the best. What was happening to those people? Why they were attracted to the Alter Rebbe? How did the Torah learning change by them? So it says, ככל שתגדל מעלתו של הלמדן. By the Alter Rebbe, the deeper you learn, the greater sage you become, למדה מניתי, the more you realize that what? הרי התורה היא גדולה יותר ממנו. You realize that you really don't understand. The more you know, in other words, when you see the greatness of God, the more you see how low you are. If you don't see the greatness of God, you don't see how low you are.
They were thinking they get into godliness already.
That's right,
They didn't see the God.
because they didn't see the godliness. Once you see the godliness in the Torah, you realize you are nothing. Liyuta, because the Torah is aruka me'eretz, like it says, it's longer than the earth and wider than the sea. ארוכה מארץ מידה ורחבה מן הים. וכיוון שכן, and because of this, הרי כל מה שפעל בתורה, everything that the Alter Rebbe did in the Torah, אינו בערך לגבי מה שישנו עוד בתורה. So you learn something, it's negligible compared to what is in the Torah. כך שעליו להמשיך ללמוד תורה. So the more you learn, in other words, the more you learn Torah, the more you know that you don't know. כאילו שזה אתה מתחיל ללמוד תורה. It is just like you never learned Torah before because you realize how great the Torah is, how deep it is. And then there was another difference between the Alter Rebbe and that group. In that group loved to sit in Beit Midrash, in Shul, in the yeshivas, and they loved to discuss the Gemara. That's what you do. You learn Gemara all day long. And what is the Gemara? The Gemara is a discussion of how God thinks. Why this way? Why that way? Why you have to... What's the logic behind Rabbi? What's the logic behind Abaye? Yeah, discussing the logics, the svaros between this logic is against logic, which logic is stronger, and so on and so forth. But they didn't emphasize the point of what do you actually have to do. They knew all God's logic. But what the halacha is, what you have to do, they didn't learn so much. It wasn't so important. They liked the learning part, not the doing part. The doing part is a side issue. You know who should do the doing part? The farmers. They should learn Shulchan Aruch. They should know what to do. We are dealing with, with God's wisdom, with godliness. הדגשה מיוחדת על העניין, דגדול תלמוד שמביא ידי מעשה. Alter Rebbe didn't just taught how to learn Torah, he taught how to learn Torah so that you're going to do it. כפי שמצינו שאחת הפעולות של רבנו הזקן עוד לפני שהיה נשיא, and this is we see the Alter Rebbe did even before he became a leader. בתור הכנה לנשיאות, this was the preparation to become a leader, הייתה למצוא בתורה פסק דין ברור להלכה בפועל, דבר הווי הזו הלכה. The Alter Rebbe wrote, you know, the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch, the Chassidus Shulchan Aruch, and the Tanya, Chassidus and Gemara, these are the two things that the Alter Rebbe wrote. וכפי שמצינו בברא מסכת סנהדרין, and it says, what's so important about halacha? The entire world is learning what? This Gemaras. Everybody's learning Gemara. Who learns halacha? Says you need to learn halacha, you learn Gemara. That's what you're supposed to learn. Alter Rebbe says, no. Gemara is important. But which kind of Gemara? Gemara that you understand to such an extent that you understand what to do. What's God's will. Not just what's God's wisdom, but what's God's will. And where do we see this? We see it in a story in the Gemara. It's nothing new. בנוגע לדוד ויונתן בן שאול, we see it in a story about David and Jonathan and King Saul. How? היו לומדים גדולים, ועל אחת כמה וכמה שאול עצמו. They were all learned people. King David was a great sage. Yeah? Shaul was a great sage. And Jonathan was also a great sage. We're on page 7. And we're going to see something very interesting. King Saul, by the way, King Saul was only a king for a very short time. And King Saul, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but from the description, he describes King Saul, he used to have panic attacks. I don't know exactly why the panic attacks used to come, but he used to suffer from panic attacks. And so his advisor wanted to bring somebody to calm his nerves. So Doeg, one of his generals, he said, King Saul, I have someone for you, a great guy, whoever he's next to, he's got a calming atmosphere around him. He's going to calm you. So he describes King David. So he said like this, שכאשר דואג סיפר לשאול אודות מעלותיו של דוד בתורה, when Doeg told King Saul about the qualities of King David when it comes to learning Torah, לא התפעל שאול מזה. He told him, King David is good in this. So King Saul says, I'm not impressed. באומרו, יונתן בני כמוהו. He says, I'm not impressed. Jonathan, my son, is like it also. Whatever you told me about King David, Jonathan can also do. ורק שאמר לו, only when he told him, והשם עמו, and God is with him. What is God is with him? שההלכה כמותו בכל מקום, that the law is like him in every place. Not just law. See, Beit Shammai is correct, Beit Hillel is correct. The logic of Shammai and the logic of Hillel are both correct logic. But the halacha is like the house of Hillel. So it says, when you tell me the logic of Beit Shammai, I'm not impressed. My son Jonathan can do. When you tell me the logic of Beit Hillel, I'm also not impressed. My son Jonathan can tell you the logic. But to know that the halacha is this, that's I'm impressed already. And then it says, Azai chalsha dato, when he heard that no matter what sugya you're going to come to, not just the logic, King David will come and tell you, I know what the sugya is, וכינבו, he became jealous. כיוון שזהו דבר שגם אצלו לא היה, because neither King Saul, not Yehonatan, had it. Let me just explain to you. Most people don't understand what it's talking about, so I'll give you a quick example. When I did the Sicha, Smicha, everybody does to become a rabbi, so they learn Smicha. So one of the things that we learned was Basar Bechalav, meat and milk. So it was the first test that we had. There were 20 students coming around, and I was wise. I sat in the end, so that my plan was so that I will, when the questions are going to come, I'll have time to at least know what kind of questions are going to come, to think. You have more time to think. So he started with me. He said, we're going to start with the end. And I got the first question. I still remember the first question. The first question, nothing. Everybody knows the answer. I'll tell you what the question is. The question is, there was a chicken soup. No, he didn't say chicken soup. There's a soup. That's what the way he says it. He says, a old woman picks up, he goes, ring, ring. So I look at him like he's crazy. At that time, there was ring, ring, not like today. I lived many years ago. He goes, ring, ring. Everybody looks at him, what do you want? He says, there's a phone call, pick it up. So I go like this, hello. So he says, I'm an old woman, and I'm telling you, I have a chicken soup on the stove. No, he didn't say soup. I have a soup on the stove. And then he says, I took a milchik spoon and I stirred it. Now what? So I was happy. I knew everything. So I told him, no problem. First of all, I knew what question to ask. The first question to ask, I tell him, the soup is boiling? The soup is boiling. I said, is it chicken in the soup or is it meat in the soup? So he told me it was chicken in the soup. I said, the spoon, did it pass 24 hours or didn't pass 24 hours? So he says, it was within 24 hours it was used for milk. Yeah, whatever the case was. And then he says, I want to know what the soup, what they did with the soup, what they do with the spoon, what they did with it. So no problem. Beit Yosef, I tell you, Beit Yosef says like this, the Rama says like this, the Pri Megadim, I gave him everybody. Yeah, it's like 6 instructions. This one says like this one says like this. There's an argument about Beit Yosef, the 3 guys arguing of what he meant over here. So he looks at me and he says, there's an old lady on the phone. She wants to know what to do with the soup and the spoon. So it was, you should have seen the room. The room became quiet, the whole room. And the guy who told us the thing, everybody's looking at him. So he says, I don't know. He says, what do you... There's 6 opinions of great sages who I'm going to tell you exactly. So he says it's good. It says it's good that you guys don't know. You know what you need now? Ask your wife. He says any one of you, if you call your wife, she knows what to do because she didn't learn the logic behind it and the Gemara. For her, it's practically she knows what to do. She knows what it is. The halacha. It says to know from the logics to come out to halacha, that's something else completely. That's a whole different ball game. It says this is King David has, and he has it in every sugya, and nobody else has. That's the idea behind it. Okay, but let's see how this story goes around in the Gemara itself. So let's see. Source number 3. This is from Samuel. It says, "Vayan echad me'ane'arim vayomer." One of Saul's boy said, Hine ra'iti ben leisha. He says, I saw a special guy for you, King Saul. He's going to calm you down. What's so special about him? First of all, he's the son of Ishai, Beit Lachmi. He lives in the Beit Lechem. Yodea Nagen. First of all, the simple explanation, he knows how to play. Ve'gibor chayil, and he's a mighty warrior. Ve'ish milchama, he's a man of war. Ve'navon, and he's smart. Davar, ve'ish toar, he also looks, he has a good appearance, a handsomer. And the last one, ve'Hashem imo, and God with him. So the Talmud tells us, it's a nice thing, but what is he talking about over here? He's not telling you that King David was playing the harp and knew how to hold the sword. There's a deep message in the message that he's telling us. What's the message? So in Tractate Sanhedrin, in source number 4 on page 7, the Gemara actually tells us every part, what does it mean? So it says, Ve'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Kach yesh lidrosh את הפסוק. I'll explain to you what is the designation of King David. Yodea Nagen, when it says he knows how to play, doesn't mean he knows how to play the harp. No, that's not what it means. What does it mean? זה שיודע להישאל בדבר תורה. When he sees a question, a problem with the logic, immediately he says, hey, there's a problem in the logic over here. That's what it says. He knows how to play the game of Gemara. That's what it means. He knows how to play the game. When there's a problem in logic anywhere, whichever logic, he immediately says, hey, there's a problem with the logic right over there. He jumps on it. Yeah, that's the first thing. שאלות של טעם. He asks questions that make sense. He said, oh, you always say, whoa, that's a good question. One of those questions. That's the Yodean again. Gibor, a fine warrior. The next part, what does that mean? שיודע גם להשיב דברי תורה לשואל. That if somebody asks him, why do you ask him this question? He can explain to him exactly. This goes, the halacha goes like this. So there, sometimes somebody asks a question and you start digging at his question, he crumbles. He starts crumbling. Oh, maybe I'm not sure, I'm not this. No, he tells you exactly. This question is good because this and this. If you say this and this, then this doesn't work. In other words, it's not just he asks a question. The background of the question by him is solid. He knows exactly why he asked the question. It's not just, some people are just quick. They see the logic, but they don't have the yesod, they don't have the base to hold the question on. Ish milchama is a man of war. What does that mean? איש שיודע לישא וליטן במלחמתה של תורה. It's a man that can hold both logic even though the logic are opposite each other. He can see this way, he can see this way, he can see the war. He can see what's the advantages of this side. He can see what the advantage of this side, what's the disadvantage of this side. He doesn't just see one way. Many people just are able to watch the situation from one way. He is able to watch it from both ways. איש תואר שמראה פנים בהלכה ומסביר אותו יפה. That once he knows the law, he is able to explain it very, very well. He's not just, some people know the law and he tells me, how do you know? He says, no, because of this. And he can't explain. No, he's going to take you step by step, by step, by step, and he's going to show you exactly how he derived whatever he derived. ונבון דבר, it's not only theoretical by him. He can take this concept and he can bring it back to life, to many areas in life. It's not just he knows it theoretically. Some people are book smart. When it comes to bringing it down to the world, they're not able to. No, King David is not just book smart. He takes all these ideas and he makes it relevant to you. It puts it into your life, how it affects you in your life. This is Nevon Davar. והשם עמו, and the last one, and God with him, שהלכה כמותו בכל מקום. The end, his opinion, he understands from all this way the opinion of what God wants. You can trust him. He says, this is what God wants, this is what God wants. ומספרים, and they tell us the story. בכל הדברים שמנו לשבח בדוד, אמר להם שאול. So all the stages, when they told, King David can do this, King David can do this, King David can do this, יונתן בני כמוהו, he says, don't worry, יונתן בני, he can do whatever King David can do. כיוון שאמר לו, והשם עמו, but once they told him, but the halacha is like him everywhere, he can do the last part, he can bring it down to earth. Then he said, שהלכה כמותו דבר שבו עצמו בשאול גם כן לא היה בו. So this is something not only יהונתן didn't have, even King Saul didn't have. חלשה דעתו והתקנא בדוד. He was offended and he became jealous at King David. Let's try to explain it a little bit deeper. מצינו אמנם, we found, שאף על פי שבית הלל אומרים כשר וטהור, that even though that usually there's a disagreement between the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai, and the house of Hillel says it's pure, ובית שמאי אומרים להפך, and the house of Shammai אומרים it's not pure, מכל מקום אומרת הגמרא, the Gemara says, אלו ואלו דברי אלוקים חיים. Both opinions are 100% correct. אבל ישנו עניין נעלה יותר, הוויה עמו, but then there's a higher thing, God is with him. שם הוויה שלמעלה משם אלוקים, שהלכה כמותו. We're going to learn it in another class. What does it mean that the name of Havaya is above name of Elokim? That it say Havaya is with him. ועניין זה יכול להיות אצל אחד. But we're only going to be halacha just like one of them. If one says pure, one says unpure, it's either pure or unpure. I need to know what to do. And the halacha is going to be just like one of them, even though the logic of both of them are correct. ובנגע לענייננו, so let's go back to the Alter Rebbe. כשהיו אז מנהיגים וגדולים משני הצדדים, in the time of the Alter Rebbe there was great sages. For example, הגאון מווילנה was the same time as the Alter Rebbe. What is the גאון מווילנה known for? The sugyas. He can explain to you the house of Shammai, he can explain to you the house of Hillel, but was he into halacha? He wasn't into halacha. He was into the deep understanding of the logic of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. That was the whole thing. הנה העניין של חיבור השולחן ערוך. What did the Alter Rebbe do? The Alter Rebbe wrote the book of Jewish law. That's what he did. לברר ההלכה לאמיתתה למעשה בפועל. And by the way, many people don't know this. The Alter Rebbe pretty much finished the entire Gemara with all the commentaries. And was able to get to halacha by either the age of 14 or 15. Yeah? Just imagine, everything. He knew depth to get to the halacha in entire Gemara by age of 14, 15. He started writing the Hilchot Pesach, the Shulchan Aruch, even before he became Rebbe. He started writing that. היינו חידושו של רבנו הזקן עוד קודם שהתחיל לגלות פנימיות התורה. This was even before he taught the inner part of the Torah. כמבואר בארוכה בהקדמת הברנים בני הגאון המחבר שהייתה התחילה של חיבור שולחן ערוך בהיותו יושב בשבט תחכמון יחולו. He did it when he was still a young boy. בבית הרב מגד מזריץ' he was still a chassid. לא רק סתם ההתחלה אלא שהלכות ציצית והלכות פסח נאמרו שמה. And the hardest halachot, Pesach and Tzitzit, which are the hardest one, he wrote even before he became Rebbe, when he was a young boy.
That's because he learned Hasidut or
because he was a learner. Because he was a learner. He knew how to learn, real learning, not like like the David learning. Not just the concepts. Yeah, that's Hashem Imo. That's right. That was his personality. That was who he was. So this is the forward from the Alter Rebbe Code of Jewish Law by his sons. So it says, Mishmaya askimu, from the heavens it was agreed, al yedei harav HaKadosh הנזכר לעיל, הרב המגיד, by the continuation of the Baal Shem Tov, who was the Rav HaMagid, לחפש בחפש מחופש בתלמידיו, he looked at one of the students who is going to be able to do that, למצוא איש אשר רוח אלוקים בו, to find a man with the spirit of God, להבין ולהורות הלכה ברורה, מתון ומסיק, אליבא דהלכת ההלכות בטעמם. That he needs to write the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch with the logic. Now, this is something that not many people know. When the book of Jewish laws, let's say, there's many of them. The most famous one is the Rambam, Maimonides, called the Yad HaChazaka. He wrote all the Jewish laws that we have. After him came the Beit Yosef. Yeah, the Beit Yosef, everybody knows Yosef Karo. Yeah, he is the one that we all go by. Today, the Beit Yosef. What's the difference between the Rambam, the Beit Yosef, and the Alter Rebbe? Yeah, there's a big difference between them, a huge difference. If you look at the halachas of the Rambam, you read the halacha and you know the halacha. If you read the halacha of the Beit Yosef, you read the halacha, you know the halacha. You don't know why. When the Alter Rebbe wrote his Shulchan Aruch, he wrote all the halacha and the reasons. The reason is in the halacha. He writes it in such a manner that if you learn it properly, you would see why you do it this way. Hey, but the Gemara has another 20 opinions. Why you don't go? He explains why not this one, why not this one, why this one then, and why not this one that. In the halacha, he will explain everything. By the way, the vast majority of the Alter Rebbe, Shulchan Aruch, we don't have. It's been burnt. We don't have. We have just a small little part. We have Shabbos, we have Shkamat HaBoker, we have small. The majority of it, we don't have. We only have small. No, it wasn't. No, you have to remember, in those time books were expensive, and when they used, Hasidim used all to live together, and when the time, it was huts, and in Russia, and once the fire started, you probably heard in history, the entire Moscow was burnt. How many times? Many times. Moscow, the whole town. The whole Moscow burnt. Once there was fire in Russia, you can't stop it. There's no water. Yeah, it was all made of wood. Everything was made of wood, not stone in Russia. So the entire town burnt. So what happened? All the Hasidim used to live together. So once there was a fire, everything got burnt. So we don't have it. And some Hasidim took over here, so we have a few. But pretty much everything was almost burnt. Okay. So let's continue. Page 9. Let's start from the second paragraph. We're almost out of time. ויבחר, so the Alter Rebbe chose, בכבוד אדוננו, אבינו, מורנו ורבנו, in the Maggid chose the Alter Rebbe, זכר צדיק לברכה, אשר בו בזמנו היה מלא וגדוש מים התלמוד והפוסקים, that he knew the entire Torah, הפציר בו עד בוש, he refused, the Alter Rebbe refused to write it down, he didn't want the responsibility, but the Maggid made him, he says you have to, ואמר לו, אין נבון וחכם כמוך לרד לעמקה של הלכה, לעשות מלאכה זו מלאכת הקודש. It says nobody else, if you're not going to do it, nobody else today is able to do it. All those great learned people, they don't have the power to be able to do the work that you can do. בכל דברי הראשונים והאחרונים זקוקים שבעתיים, כל דבר על לפניו בלי בלבול ותערובת, you can do it without getting confused, ופסק הלכה מתברר, ויותר דברי כל הפסקים, החכמנו זה, the only one that can do it, he says, is you. No one else in this generation can do it. So let's continue. Page 9, middle of the page. ולא עוד, אלא שבחיבור השולחן ערוך, כלל רבנו הסכם גם את ההבנה וההסברה של פסקי הדיינים. He didn't just write the halacha, he wrote the logic behind it. שזהו החילוק בין השולחן ערוך של רבנו הזקן לשולחן ערוך של המחבר, רבי יוסף קארו. This is the difference between what the Alter Rebbe read and what the Yosef Kar says. I'm going to skip 4 lines from the bottom where it says וכן and in true. You remember what the group of elitist Jews told the Tsar was his problem, that because of him learning of the Torah is going to become less? Because of him learning of the Torah was on a much deeper level. He says, once you're going to emphasize the regular farmer, learning of the Torah is going to disappear. Nobody's going to learn Torah. Judaism is going to disappear. And what happened? Because of the Alter Rebbe, learning of the Torah became much deeper than it ever was. That was the first lie. ובכן, אמיתית העניינים הייתה להפך עם מה שהתקבל לדעתו של הצר והקטגוריה שלו. It was exactly the opposite of what they accused him by the Tsar. ששיטתו של רבנו הזקן תגרום לזלזול חס ושלום בלימוד התורה. That the Alter Rebbe is going to cause people not to learn Torah. It actually caused the opposite. People started learning Torah more than ever before. Let's continue on page 10. והדרך זה בנוגע לגמילות חסדים. You remember the second thing they accused the Alter Rebbe? That he was supporting the enemies of the Tsar, the Turks, when he's sending money to Israel. That was the second opinion. And we're going to see it was exactly the opposite. The second accusation. רבנו הזקן שלח תמיכה בכמה אופנים ליהודים. The Alter Rebbe sent money to the Jews שבארץ ישראל, the land of Israel. Why? כדי שיוכלו ללמוד תורה ולקיים מצוות, so that they can perform Torah and do mitzvahs. ועל ידי זה, and when a Jew performs Torah and does mitzvahs, what happens? לקרב את ביאת המשיח, they're going to bring the Mashiach much closer, and when Mashiach is going to come much closer, what's going to happen? תשתחרר ארץ ישראל ממשלת הסולטן. We're going to kick the Arabs out of Israel. In other words, he was sending money to the enemies of the enemy of the Tsar, to the Jews, who the Jews by their learning Torah were causing the Muslims to get out of the land. So what they accused him of doing, it was exactly the opposite. ואילו אצל השונא התפרש הדבר להפך, שהסיוע מיעזור שלך, and they accused him of helping the Turks. He wasn't helping the Turks, he was helping the Jews against the Turks. So the accusation was exactly the opposite. ועל דרך זה, בנוגע למתפלל עליהם הציבור. And on this often, when it's considered to be praying with the congregation. By the way, since a few of us learning Tanya over here, praying with the congregation, besides the simple explanation that it means praying with 10 Jews, it also in Tanya it means praying with 10 kochot nefesh, with the 10 powers of soul. Chabad, Chochma Bina Dat, Chesed Gvura Tiferet, Netzach Hod Yesod Malchut. When you pray with all the things, it's all praying with the entire congregation. It means praying with all of you. All of you is praying. You don't leave part of you out of prayer. הטענה הייתה שמצד שינוי נוסח התפילה והמנהגים מיוחדים, they accused him, hey, this is a new cult. They have a new way of davening, they want to congregate by themselves. יכול להיות עניין שהוא הפך תפילת אמת לקל כאמת. You can come to the conclusion, you know what, they don't really daven to God. You daven to God, Ashkenaz, what is this davening to God another way? These guys are not really davening. And ask yourself today, who is known more for davening? Yeah, Hasidim are known more for davening. That's what it is. ובנוגע לפועל, and when it comes to actuality, הרי זה בדיוק להפך, it's exactly the opposite. כששואצים על מי שיהיה מליטה, you ask somebody who comes from ליטה, גליציה או פולניה, either גליציה או פולנד, מי מעריך בתפילה? Who davens long? Who davens with feelings? ישיב שאם פלוני מתפלל חצי שעה מאוחר יותר, by the Hasidim, since they daven for a longer time, הרי זה סימן שיש לו שירות חסידות. says Hasidim, they daven instead of for 45 minutes, these guys are davening for 2 hours, they're crazy, 3 hours sometimes. והרי על כל פנים לחסידים, but nevertheless, you see that everything they accused him of, it was exactly the opposite. Okay. page 11, וההסברה על זה שם לשינות הייתה על שלושת עניינים, and so they accused him of these 3 things. העוסק בתורה, learning Torah, גמילות חסדים, doing kindness, charity, ומתפלל עם הציבור, כי לכאורה, כיוון ששקלנו רגליים, הרי צריך להיות איזה עניין שלא תחילתו. But now, the Rebbe says, if they accused him, there must have been some truth to it. See, there's no such thing as a lie that is completely 100% lie. Every lie has to have some truth in it for people to believe it. So the Rebbe now asks a question, if it has some truth in it, what was the truth that they find? It has to have some truth. All the 3 arguments that they came against the Alter Rebbe must be true. So now the Rebbe asks, if it's true, there was a problem with the Alter Rebbe, the way he serves until now. Now the Rebbe says, I'm going to tell you what was the problem with the Alter Rebbe. He's going to explain. What was the problem? They were right to some extent. Let's see what they were right. So it says, בוודאי עסק רבנו הזקן בלהט, בשלושת עניינים של תורה גמילות חסדים ותפילה עם הציבור. It says for sure, the way they accused him, that's for sure was wrong. As we explained. It was wrong completely. אבל זה בעצמו נתווסף העניין, but it says, it was wrong, but it has some element of truth. How? Because after the Alter Rebbe came out of jail, you know how he did these 3 things? On a completely higher level than he did it before. It was a new thing. And what does this show? That the service of him before wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. He says, even though the fact that after he came out of jail, you can see that he increased in all these 3 things, shows that they were right to some aspect, that he could have done even more than he did before. How? Because there's a concept that says Hanukkah is going to come soon, and this is the concept of Hanukkah, שהזית אינו מוציא את שמנו עד שקודשים אותו. It says the olive doesn't bring out the oil until you press it. Once you press it, it brings out the oil. So it's true that after you press the Alter Rebbe, you could see that he even elevated from what he was even beforehand. כדברי רש"ב, נשמתו ידע בנוגע לחילוק של פטרבורג אחרי פטרבורג, it says, and you can see it by the Alter Rebbe before he went to jail and after he went to jail. It was completely different levels.
Also, all the time in jail, no?
Yeah, the entire, yeah.
So, it's another thing.
Word over here. Yeah. וכל זה, and all of this, למרות שגם לפני פטרבורג היה אצל כל ענייני, even though before he was jailed in Petersburg, כאמור לעיל בנוגע לכתיבה של שולחן ערוך, like we said, when it comes to the writing of the שולחן ערוך, שסיים כמה הלכו בהיותו אצל מורו המגיד מזריש, that he did it even before he became Rebbe, he started writing the הלכות of Pesach and הלכות of Tzitzis, ועל דרך זה בנוגע לגמילות חסדים, and if you want to know how did the Alter Rebbe behave when it comes to גמילות חסדים, so it's going to tell you a story. שהיה אצלו כמה זמן לפני זה, ועוד הסיפור הידוע, until the famous story. בנוגע לנדוניה שקיל חתונה. The Alter Rebbe was 14 years old when he got married. He was known when he was 14 years old that he was a kid genius. Everybody wanted to marry him. Everybody. He was not a 14-year-old. he was a genius in everything. So in the end, Rabbi Segal was a very rich businessman. He told the Alter Rebbe, so the Alter Rebbe says, I'm willing to marry your daughter as long as you give me nedunya, as you pay money. He says, what was the amount of money? So it says, imagine, we're talking about 1700s, late 1700s. And maybe you would know, it was 5,000 ruble. Yeah, back then. It's probably like today $5 million or $500,000. I don't know exactly how much, but it was, imagine today $5 million. Yeah. Oh, he says, I want like $5 million to get married, and I want complete control over it. I want $5 million, and you cannot tell me what to do with it. That's what he says. That he says, I'm going to have the money, and I can do with it whatever I want. ואחר כך השתמש בזה לגמילות חסדים. And as soon as he got married, he took all these $5 million, all of it. And what did he do? לסדר יהודים בעניין של פרנסה. He bought lands in Russia, and he told Jews, go work the land. He bought lands all over Russia, and he transferred hundreds and thousands of Jews from other areas, go become farmers. That's what he told them. So that you can support yourself. כפי שהתגבל אצלו באיזה אופן צריכה להיות פרנסתם, because he believed that if they're going to stay in the cities, there's going to be too much anti-Semitism against them. So he says, like this, you're far away, no pogroms, no things, you're far away, you're going to be safe over here. You can grow your own food, you don't have to worry. והדרך זה בנוגע לתפילה. So this was before he became Rebbe. And this is also when it comes to davening. כידוע אופן הגעת רבנו זקן התפילה הוא כמציאות שלו. As we know how he used to daven even before he became a Rebbe. Let's look at this story from source number 6. Oh, the source number 6 we're going to skip. It's just the story I just told you now, pretty much. That he took this vast amount of money and he gave it to charity. And imagine the person is 14 years old over here. Right? And he asked for it. The only reason he married that guy's daughter, think about it, is for the money because he wanted to give it to the Jews. Yeah, so you telling me this guy is lacking in Gemilut Chasadim? Says yes, because after Petersburg, after he came out of jail, he went even more than that. You can just imagine what more than that means. Yeah? So we are in the middle of page 12. וכאמור לעיל הוא העיקר שעניין הניזקון יבוא לידי פועל. The main thing that the discussion should have a practical consequences to us. ואף כי מי הוא איזה ואשר ערב ליבו לגשת אפילו שמץ מינהו, that a person like us, each and every one of us is happy. You know, we have Gemilut Chasadim, we give charity, we learn Torah, we daven, right? So usually we're happy. Say, look, we're doing what we're supposed to do. So it says, learn from the Alter Rebbe. Yeah? Even if you think that the elite, you reached whatever you reached, it says, there's much more to go than you can even imagine. Don't be like before the Alter Rebbe, like the Jewish congregation said, I'm the elite, this is enough. We have our own shuls, we have our own things, we're happy with what we're doing. No. You know that what you have is good, but it can be how? 1,000,000 times better. נותנים לנו כוחות, we give us the power, שיוכל להיות העניין של עוסק בתורה. And look how it says. It doesn't say learn Torah. It says, what's the difference between learning Torah and as your business on Torah? Learning Torah is something that you do. You go to the shul and you learn Torah, and then you go to your business. When you're in your business, do you think about it? No, because this is your business now. Osek b'Torah is when you go to shul, you learn Torah, and then you go to your business, and as you're talking to the guy, you're thinking about, how does this work? I didn't quite understand that. That's what it means. It becomes your business. You talk to your wife, that's what you think. It's ingrained in you. This is what it means. It's part of you. This is what it means. העוסק בתורה בהתמדה ובשקידה ובעיקר מתוך הגדולה. And you have all your enthusiasm in it. הן בתורת הניגלה והן בתורת התורה. Whether it is revealed part of Torah where it is the hidden part of Torah. והדרך זה בנוגע לגמילות חסדים מפעלים הציבור. And so it is when it comes to doing charitable acts, even though you did until now, do how much more so, even more than before. And davening with congregation, you daven with kavana until now, with 10 כוחות הנפש, do even more with your essence. וכפי שמבאר רבנו נשיאנו, שזה שאומר כל העוסק מתייחס שלושת הדברים. So it says this is when it says you have to be busy in Torah. The business has to be Torah. Doesn't only talk about Torah. It also talks about busy in charity. That this is what you think about all day long. How can I help this guy? And how can I help this guy? Yeah? And tefillah and davening. And you can think about, I can't wait for mincha to talk to God again. During the day. That's what it means, busy. I can't wait. It's like if you're a 16-year-old and you're in love, you can't wait to next class to see the girl that you think. You have to have this attitude. I can't wait for mincha next time so I can daven. הוא מבאר שלימוד התורה וגמילות חסידים ועבודת תפילה צריכים להיות באופן של העוסק, בדרך ייגע בהתעסקות גדולה. It needs to be your business. It needs to be your life. באותו אופן שמתעסק בעניין שהידו משיג לפרנסתו. Just like any businessman knows, by the way, it says over here, businessman, not worker. A worker has no idea what we're talking about. You need to have a business. Because a worker will never be all of himself in the work. It is impossible. It's not his life. Only a businessman understands what it says over here. But that's why it says osek. It has to be your business. Your business. Because you have to be there, your whole being. Yeah. וזוהי ההוראה לכל אחד ואחד עד לדורנו זה ועד רבה. And this is an instruction to each and every one of us. בדורותינו זה דור של כבוד המשיח, especially this generation that Mashiach is about to come, שצריך בקרוב לקבל פני משיח צדקנו, שצריך להרבות. So even though you think you do enough, now you will understand that your learning Torah until today wasn't good enough. You need to increase in the learning of the Torah. And your charitable acts until today wasn't enough. We need to increase in charitable acts. And davening with the congregation wasn't enough. You need to increase in it. In what kind of manner increase in it? That it becomes your business. This is what you think about your entire time. Torah, Gemilut Chasadim, and davening, and prayer.